let's get straight into it then. Your piece, Stu, puts it brilliantly, really. Leicester, 8th in the Premier League, Europa Conference semi-finalists and a Community Shield win. Before that, 5th in an FA Cup, 5th in Europa League qualification, 9th, 12th, Champions League quarter-finalists, Premier League champions. If you are a football fan, you have had an absolutely joyous ride with Leicester, which is what we're all in it for, really.
An incredible ride. I mean, they've won the Premier League there. Okay, the Community Shield isn't held in quite the same way. The FA Cup as well. What would, for example, Tottenham Hotspur fans give for something like that? And then you look at the gulf between those two clubs on the balance sheet. Tottenham's revenue is exactly double Leicester's. It's extraordinary that Leicester have been able to compete like that over a period of time. The Premier League title was obviously unbelievable, probably something we will never, ever see anything like that again, I'd imagine, in our lifetimes. Hope I'm wrong, but I can't imagine that will be the case. But actually, it's incredible that Leicester then, when we all thought, okay, they'd fall away a little bit and almost go back to their normal place in the Premier League, for want of a better way of putting it, they came back and finished 5th back-to-back. And actually, they were disappointed to finish 5th in both those seasons. They came really close to qualifying for the Champions League and probably should have done. So it has been an absolutely amazing run. But realistically, it's getting harder and harder to stay in the top 6. And I think we also have to look at what's coming behind. And I know Leicester are really aware of this, looking at the money that Newcastle will be able to spend over time. Aston Villa, big players in the market as well. West Ham have spent this summer. So not only is it more difficult to keep pace with those clubs in front, the traditional big 6, there are others coming behind, and that's a real challenge for Leicester.
Are they, Rob, victims of their own success then?
Well, expectations have certainly risen. I mean, certainly amongst a large part of the fan base, and I think around the game in general. And the fact that the word crisis has been mentioned, and finishing 8th last season and getting to the semi-finals of the European competition was seen as a disappointment. I mean, that's the levels now. They've set their own standards over the last few years, and Brendan Rodgers has certainly done that as well by talking about qualifying for Europe on a regular basis and having that aspiration. And it is a club full of aspiration. They are. I mean, I know the transfer market at the moment, we're going to get into that in a bit, is tricky for them, but they still aspire to do well this season, regardless of whether any signings come in or not. But yeah, that expectation level does create added pressure. And we've seen a few times that when the pressure's been on at the end of the season, certainly when they were in the top 4 for such a long time in those campaigns, they did fall away at the end.
But they aren't unusual, are they? I mean, in not being able to move players on, particularly, let's bracket them with the top 6, shall we? Because they are, we've said, they're the ones that have given it the best go of breaking that top 6. Arsenal, by all accounts, have got 6 or 7 players that they want to move on. Manchester United don't seem to have been able to move anybody on for about 8 years. So, they struggle with that. Now Manchester City have moved players on, but by selling them to their rivals in the main, when you look at Sterling or Gabriel Jesus or Zinchenko. And if Leicester were to move players on, probably the ones that are wanted would weaken their own squad, wouldn't they? And
absolutely,
maybe one of the top 6 would take a risk on Maddison. I don't know. Or Newcastle are going to come in for Maddison or Harvey Barnes, and that massively that they aren't the players they want to move on, presumably.
That's absolutely the case, Mark. They have had interest. Atletico Madrid have sniffed around Timothy Castagne as well. We all know Arsenal have got an interest. They haven't moved on Tielemans. There's a lot of interest in Fofana. Obviously, Chelsea have had 2 bids rejected now. The second, I understand, was just over 60 million, not the 70 million that was reported elsewhere. But Leicester don't want to sell him at any cost. Same with Maddison and the situation in Newcastle. They don't want to sell these core players. That is probably the only way you'd think they could free up a bit of finance, but they don't really, as I said at the start, they don't really need the money. It's not a case of selling to generate cash. That would definitely weaken their squad and their options going further into the season if they lost to Fofana or they lost to Maddison. They're the core players they're trying to build the team around. It's the superfluous players, the ones on the fringes, that they're trying to move on. And you mentioned Man City, they're the top of the tree. So everybody's going to be wanting to take their players, but Leicester aren't there. So, it's a different market. And recruitment's been the key of Leicester's success over the many, many years. They've been very effective at it. Last summer was a failure because 3 of the 5 they signed are 3 of the players that they want to move on now, just a year down the line. I mean, Boubakary Soumaré couldn't even get in the squad at the weekend. So this is the situation they find themselves in. And for clubs like Leicester, you can't get it wrong in the transfer market because you haven't got the money to put it right. You've got to be spot on. You've got to reduce the risks at every stage. So I think this transfer window, having spent 55 million net last summer, has been a bit of a chance for Leicester just to breathe and reflect on. They can't keep going down that road. They can't keep going 55 million, 60 million because they haven't got that sort of revenue. And as I said to you guys before off air, the sides they're chasing financially are a moving target. They're getting stronger and richer. And Leicester are still, they're trying to keep on their tails, but they're running out of steam a little bit. So
onto the structure. We've mentioned that the head of recruitment won't join until September the 1st in Martin Glover. Is that what his title will be? Sorry, there are so many job titles at football clubs now.
Yeah,
is that head of recruitment?
You're right to call him that.
So Brendan Rodgers is working within what structure at the moment?
Well, at the moment, in terms of the transfer market, it's Director of Football John Rudkin that's doing a lot of the work. Brendan's a little bit more hands-on than he would normally be, and they're liaising with Callum Smithson and the head of the recruitment department, and Callum's one of the senior ones there. So there's still that link, and it's still the same structure as previously, but without that head of recruitment, that important head of recruitment. There's a lot of the negotiating. We'll be talking to the targets and their agents, trying to sell the club to them to get them to come. And so I think that's the structure at the moment. And Brendan might have a little bit more of a say, but obviously at the moment he's been told categorically, unless they can create some space in the squad, he's not having anybody in. And from what I understand, there is nothing imminent.
So he talked about, didn't he, needing to freshen things up during the summer, and then sort of rode back on that doesn't necessarily mean signing players. You can freshen up mentality and so on and so forth. Is he fresh?
I'm just judging by his body language. He's saying all the right things. He's on message, but I think he's very frustrated at the moment because he could see that the life of this squad, as it exists at the moment, was coming towards an end, and he wanted to refresh now and just to keep breathe new life into it for the new campaign, and he's not been able to do that as such yet. So, I think he still says all the right things. He's very good in those situations, and it's a good job really, because Leicester City, only the manager ever speaks publicly, really. Yeah. Nobody else at the hierarchy ever does interviews or things like that. So, you need your manager on message. Otherwise the message is because his message is the only message. But at the moment, yeah, he's saying all the right things, but I know he's frustrated with the situation.
Stuart?
Yeah, I think that's a really good summary of it. Brendan's, an excellent communicator. He handled some difficult questions when I was there on Friday really well. But yeah, you can see the underlying frustration that's there. I think he's clearly got an excellent relationship with the board and a lot of respect for them, and in particular, Top, the owner. And I think if that wasn't the case, Mark, I wonder how different the message might be. I'm not saying Brendan would be sort of sitting there throwing his toys out the pram, but I think it may come across slightly differently. But I feel that he has as I say, a lot of respect for the people at the top of Leicester, and he's not going to rock the boat in that way. But in terms of what's needed, it's what we're 3.5 years now, Rob, down the line. It feels like a good time for a change. He made those comments back in February after the Forest defeat about the healthy shake-up, when he said 9 of the 11 that started that day were with him on his first day at Leicester. It does feel like there needed to be that cycle of change. We often talk about managers changing after that period of time, don't we, going stale? So if the squad isn't shifting, you kind of think, where does that fresh impetus come from? But the point I still come back to, Mark, as I feel they've got a really good starting 11 still, Leicester, as long as they keep them, as long as they keep Fofana, Maddison, Tielemans. And obviously that's a big ask, but I do feel he can put out a team Unfortunately, Harvey Barnes obviously wasn't fit on the weekend. I feel he can put out a really good 11. They haven't got European football this season. Big question will be, will they have the same issues, around injuries, which are obviously a massive problem last season. If they can keep most of that 11 fit, I still think they can do really well. But what it really well is what? I don't know, 8th, 7th? Maybe Leicester fans don't want to hear that, but that's what it is in my eyes.
Yeah, and talking about freshening up the squad, it was freshened up last season by Keenan Dewsbury Hall coming through and emerging from the academy, and he had a couple of loans out and did very well come in. That is at the moment the only way he's going to freshen it up, by bringing along some of these youngsters, and there are a few that they've got high hopes for at the club, but it might be too soon. And Brendan's shown, he doesn't want to throw them all in and curtail their own development. It's got to be the right time, and it certainly was with Dewsbury Hall. But there's so many of the youngsters as well. That academy is very productive.
It feels like, and our producer made this point, Leicester aren't the first to be in this situation, and they won't be very much in the last. And our producer made the point, does it remind you of Pochettino's Tottenham squad towards the end there? Another who tried to, got to a Champions League final, were in a title race, tried to crack that top 4 or whatever, however you want to characterise the leading clubs. We've been here before, haven't we?
Well, exactly. And I think Brendan will be looking at that exact scenario and thinking, well, how did it end there? It ended with Pochettino going, and then eventually that refresh came under another manager. So, I can see why he's concerned, because he knows the pressure's on him this season as well. I mean, this is uncharted territory for him. I don't think he hasn't spent as much time at one club as he has now at Leicester, and he's had fantastic success. But as we said right at the top of the show, that creates expectation. And regardless of the mitigation of injuries last season and what the problems they're having in the transfer window this season, there's still expectation.
But Leicester fans, sorry, Stu, Leicester fans still with him. I know. Again, I always caveat that with I've just lumped everybody in together, but
I think the vast majority are, but there are some that are now questioning him, and certainly after the opening day when they were 2-0 up against Brentford, and he made a tactical change, and it didn't work. And they ended up throwing away 2 points. There was a few on our comments pages after that questioning him then. So, yeah, this is a big season for Brendan.
Stu, you were going to come in.
No, I mean, just picking up on that point there. But I kind of think if it's not Brendan, then who's it going to be at Leicester? I think he's an excellent manager. Interestingly, if you flip that the other way, I don't know where Brendan would go next either, Mark, by the way. I don't know what the next opportunity would be for him. If you'd have been thinking previously about maybe some of the top 6 ones, you don't see opportunities there. But for me, what I was going to say before is what I think is fascinating here is they have to keep hold of Fofana and Maddison in my eyes. Now, if that got near the end of the window and one of those was to go, and in my mind, Fofana's more likely than Maddison, because I feel there will be more external pressure around with Fofana's people on the club to try and make a deal happen to Chelsea, for example. Then I think that would be so damaging, not just for the team. I wonder what impact that would have on Brendan Rodgers as well then. Because I also, unless there's someone out there that we can't think of, I think they'd be scrambling around, Rob, for a replacement at that time then, and they'd be back in Vestergaard territory last season.
And we've seen how that's ended in the past with Vestergaard and Adrian Silva when they sold Drinkwater to Chelsea on the final day, and then they couldn't get that through. 14 seconds too late. He couldn't play for 6 months. They don't want that scenario to repeat it at all. So yeah, it's a big few weeks for them, really.